Aloha, this is Santa Surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Man, I don't know what happened, but the ugly bots are out right now. They're just not nice people. They're very evil. Had to report them to the FBI, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, little tired today, guys. So I want to thank, about an hour ago, I want to thank you guys for lifting my spirits up, which tells me something big must be happening because they're coming from all different angles. And I'm just very, very exhausted with fighting them off, trying to do podcasting, share information with you. So yesterday's summit was massive, big. I listened to a lot of the comms. I'm going to share it with you. And oh my goodness, the DC summit, it was about eradicating child trafficking and human abuse crimes. That's how I took it. You can decide. All my podcasts are about you decide. I'm going to first of all start with Melania's letter to President Putin. And I completely missed out on one of the biggest statements so it was about her wanting to end anything having to do with child and human abuse crimes. But what she ended, she said that President Putin, he can do this. He can stop all of this human abuse crimes, it's more peace for the children, having the children come back to waking up and having their own laughter, their joy back, because we know what the dirty deep state has done with children in different nations. The leaders of different nations turned a blind eye to many of the child trafficking and child abuse crimes and human abuse crimes. And what she said is, Mr. Putin, Mr. Putin, are fit to implement this vision with the stroke of the pen today. She closes with, it is time. The power of Melania Trump. Again, remember the podcast I had from yesterday, the full podcast for August 18th. It does go over some of this. So President Trump. So I'm going to give you some of the highlights. President Trump, he had a very powerful summit at the White House. I listened to the briefing he had at the round table before they all had their private meeting, and then when he was in the Oval Office with Zelenskyy. Now, interesting enough, remember Zelenskyy was at the White House 6 months ago. Yeah, back in February, late February, and he was in there. He wanted money, and President Trump practically kicked him out. Okay, and he got a tongue lashing from President Trump yesterday. He was very gracious during the Oval Office briefing, and this you can click on this link right here. It'll take you to that full briefing with Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy graciously thanked President Trump and Melania Trump for her letter to President Putin. And then Zelenskyy gives President Trump a letter, and he said, this is from my wife, and he wanted it to be given to Melania Trump. But listen to this. It's a different Zelenskyy. Not that I stand for him. Again, I want to see, the proof is in the pudding. I want to see his actions follow through with this. But watch this.
Very, very substantial progress in many ways. We had a good meeting, as you know, just a short while ago with the president of Russia. And I think there's a possibility that something could come out of it. And today's meeting is very important. We have, I guess, the seven very powerful leaders from Europe. And we're going to be meeting with them right after this meeting. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation, and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you. And using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, abducted children, and my wife, First Lady of Ukraine. She gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife.
Oh, I want it.
Yeah. So we are saying this sensitive topic. Yes, please. And thanks to our partners, and that you supported this format. That after our meeting we can have leaders who are around us, UK and France, Germany, Italy, Finland, EU, NATO. I mean, all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them, and thank you very much for invitation.
This was incredible, this whole meeting and the parts that were made public or during the pressers. It was interesting because many of the European nations, they stated they wanted to end the killings, stop child abductions, including Zelenskyy, who stated bringing children back to their families. This is the second clip right here, so you can click on that one. Listen carefully. This summit, it was more about ending the human abuse crimes, and it sounded like also child trafficking.
We'll speak more about security guarantees. This is very important that the United States gives such strong signal and is ready for security guarantees. The second point, or maybe the first, the humanitarian direction, very important to exchange all the prisoners, and I think that President will help. And I was very thankful to your wife again, Mr. President, for the letter about our abducted children, and I hope that really it can be a historic role for the people to bring kids back to the families and be happy.
Get the people back, yeah.
Yes, this is so important, and I'm happy that we discussed it, this track with the President Trump, and I hope that we will find decisions. And then what is very important, that all the sensitive things, territorial, etc., we will discuss on the level of leaders during trilateral meeting, and President Trump will try to organize such meeting, and he said that he will come or not come. Ukraine will be happy if you will
both want me there, I will be there. Yeah,
you know, thank you. And I think this is very important. Yes, so security guarantees, bringing kids back, and all our people, not only warriors, first of all warriors, and all the civilians, journalists, a lot of people in prison. So we need them back. And guarantees which will work for the years. We spoke about it, and I showed the President a lot of details on the battlefield, on the map. Thank you so much. Thank you for the map, by the way.
Good map. 1,000 prisoners, and I know they're going to release them. Maybe they're going to release them very soon, like immediately, which I think is great. But we're going to set that up today after this meeting.
Yes, I will be very brief. I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock, basically with President Putin by starting that dialogue. And I think it was in February that you had the first phone call, and from there we are now where we are today. And that is, I think, if we play this well, we could end this. And we have to end this. We have to stop the killing. We have to stop the destruction of Ukraine's infrastructure. It is a terrible war. So I'm really excited. And let's make the best out of today and make sure that from today onwards we get this thing to an end as soon as possible. I really want to thank you for your leadership, what you are doing for Volodymyr, but of course also all the European colleagues. It is really crucial. And the fact that you have said I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees is a big step. Is really a breakthrough, and it makes all the difference. So also thank you for that.
Here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing. This is really our common interest, stop the killing. And indeed, it's very good to hear that we're working on the security guarantees, Article 5 life security guarantees, so important. But I want to thank you also that you mentioned the thousands of Ukrainian children that have been abducted. And as a mother and grandmother, every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children come back to Ukraine to their families.
Thank you. And
after 3 years and a half, that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provided to Ukraine. And the reason why I mention it is that we also have to remind that if we want to reach peace and if we want to guarantee justice, we have to do it united. So that's why it's a very good day, the one we are in. You can obviously count on Italy as it was from the beginning. We are on the side of Ukraine, and we do absolutely support your efforts towards peace. We will talk about many important topics. The first one is security guarantees, how to be sure that it won't happen again, which is the precondition of every kind of peace. I'm happy that we will discuss about that. I'm happy that we will begin from a proposal, which is the, let's say, Article 5 model, which was Italian at the beginning. So we are always ready to bring our proposals for peace, for dialogue. It's something we have to build together to guarantee peace and to defend the security of our nation. So thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us.
Manuel?
Thank you, Mr. President, for organizing this meeting and for your commitment. And everything was said, but I just have to say here, everybody around this table is in favor of peace. And we work very hard, and we've worked very hard during the past few years to have a peace which is a robust and long-standing peace. This is why the idea of a trilateral meeting is very important, because this is the only way to fix it. And by the way, I think as a follow-up, we would need probably a quadrilateral meeting, because when we speak about security guarantees, we speak about the whole security of the European continent. And this is why we are all united here with Ukraine on this matter.
Mr. Prime Minister?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for hosting us here. Can I start where Emmanuel started, which is we all want peace. The war in Ukraine has had a huge impact, particularly on the Ukrainians who've borne the brunt of it, but it's also had an impact on Europe and on the United Kingdom. There's not a family or community that hasn't been affected. And when we talk about security, we're talking about the security not just of Ukraine, we're talking about the security of Europe and the United Kingdom as well, which is why this is such an important issue. I think this is such an important meeting. As a group, I think we've had a discussion on the phone a number of times, Mr. President, but be able now to be around the table to take it forward. And I really feel that we can, I think, with the right approach this afternoon, make real progress, particularly on the security guarantees, and your indication of security guarantees of some sort of Article 5 style guarantees fits with what we've been doing with the Coalition of the Willing, which we started some months ago, bringing countries together and showing that we were prepared to step up to the plate when it came to security. With you coming alongside, the US alongside what we've already developed, I think we could take a really important step forward today. A historic step, actually, could come out of this meeting in terms of security for Ukraine and security in Europe. I also feel
It's possible it might not be able to be done. On the other hand, it's possible it will. And we're going to save thousands and thousands of lives a week. And so it's something we really have to do. And or at least we have to give it our best. It's all you can do. You can give it your best, but I think we may have a very good outcome. So I want to thank you all and the media.
My articles are a library for you to share, so you can always go, if I don't always play all the clips, but you can always go to the article link and then grab all the clips that you need. But there was a reporter that asked President Trump about the security agreement if he would send any U.S. troops. And at the time, yesterday, President Trump, he was non-committal. Although he wants to give protection and security, he was very non-committal. And then today, Carolyn Levitt said that the U.S. boots President has definitively stated the U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination and perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies. And it was more of air protection. We remember we also have Space Force, too, as one of our military branches. So we know that Space Force can help in a tremendous manner, yeah? There's definitely something very big brewing. Okay, so with those comments that you heard from the European leaders and then hearing what Zelenskyy had to say, there is something very, very big brewing, some very deep, dark dirt from certain people, right? When President Trump has 8 world leaders meeting at the White House, meeting with Putin last Friday and met with many other world leaders, including going to the Middle East and meeting with the leaders of those nations, all in 6.5 months. What are they preparing for? Nasara, right? The greatness, something, and something the deep state never ever wanted. And if you've noticed too, the comms that were out there was nothing but gold, again, it reminds me of the golden era, the golden age unfolding, and also the power of President Trump. There was so much gold, it was blinding. It was amazing. Again, rolling out the gold-backed, whatever it may be, currency, crypto, whatever it's going to be, rolling him. I mean, he had gold everywhere. He had the flags everywhere. He called the picture with the nations, the European nations and Zelenskyy, along with himself, as a family photo. Zelenskyy even wore a suit, which is incredible. And there was a remark about that, but where Brian Glenn makes a compliment to Zelenskyy, saying, your suit looks fabulous. But he even wore a suit. He was respectful to President Trump and his cabinet. It was so different to see. And you saw the world leaders that are already worked out trade agreements with President Trump. They truly respected President Trump. So President Trump, when he has 8 world leaders, including, and then himself, meeting at the White House, meeting with Putin on last Friday, all of that happening, you know they all have things in the works now. What's scary, and again, I truly believe this is all for the optics. He knows anons, we are wired differently. Okay, we look at all these different comms, listen to all the different messages, look at the gold, look at the silver hair. Okay, we see many things in a setting. We see how submissive the leaders were sitting, and then they weren't overbearing, they weren't talking over President Trump. They were just, it was just really incredible. But so he knows that we're looking for certain messages, but he also knows that he has to send certain strong messages to the deep state. Don't you think for one moment the deep state is absolutely you know what and they're you know what, right? Don't you think that they are sitting there going, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have threatened so-and-so. I shouldn't have done so-and-so. I shouldn't have. Whether it is to President Trump, to the cabinet members, to the ICE agents, to military, whatever it may be, those people are, and even to anons, the anons that get threatened over and over again, right? Don't you think for one moment they are sitting there going, oh my gosh, what was I thinking, right? And then things start to happen to them, right? So this was a very powerful, to me, it was a very powerful summit meeting because it was really for we the people. Dirty politicians, deep state, they're sitting there sweating because, again, if you've got Zelenskyy, who's ultra friendly with Trump, President Trump, they're sitting there going, oh my gosh, all those kickbacks, all that money laundering, that we got money back into our own pockets. Did Zelenskyy, did he rat us out? All of that, that's what's going on in their minds. And then those that are not quite the deep divers, like those that listen to the show, they're going to be the ones going, oh, wow, he's got a great relationship with Zelenskyy. And then they connect the dots. Did Zelenskyy hand over some dark secrets about Biden, about all of the dirty crimes from the Biden family and their ties with Ukraine and the previous Ukrainian government, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So those are the things I saw. I had to look at it in the eyes of one of the liberals, and the liberals are probably sitting there going, well, I like my criminal politician, but he's going to get caught, right? So they're just definitely prepping. Caroline Leavitt, she torches the fake news. She is so upset with them from the beginning of this entire process. She says much of the left-wing media has been actively rooting against the President of the United States and against the pursuit of peace, which is so true. And that's all they want. President Trump works out a peace deal. Weren't the Democrats out there saying, we want peace, we stand for Ukraine, we love Ukraine? They have their flags out there, they're waving it. Where are those politicians, right? Why aren't they out there saying, hey, wow, what a great job, telling their viewers or telling the people that follow them on social media, Trump did awesome, right? No, they're missing. Kind of like the Federal Reserve on the map is missing. So I'll get to that in a moment. Bill Barr had his so maybe it also leads into this. Bill Barr, he had his congressional deposition yesterday privately and stated that President Trump is not implicated in the Epstein files. So, which is, again, the series of all the depositions coming up between now and the middle of October. will be eye-opening. President Trump, he did retweet this post from Mike Davis. Mike Davis wrote, "Lawyer up, lawfare, Democrats, justice is coming. Nobody is above the law. Obama, Biden, Clinton criminal investigations are most likely approaching Trump, that Trump ally says." So this is an article here. So they're getting ready to lawyer up. Oh, and remember, Pam Bondi, she deputized the Secret Service. So if there's anybody that's been on that has Secret Service detail right now, any of the deep state swamp rats, for an example, doesn't Hillary have Secret Service protection? They have, she deputized Secret Service so they can make warrantless arrests. Again, she deputized the Secret Service, so is it that the Secret Service that's protecting all of the deep state swamp people, they can go ahead and arrest that person? I just thought I'd throw that out there. But should any big name person get justice, the liberal world, they could very well revolt. President Trump, it looks like he is preparing himself on all fronts, from D.C. throughout America to other countries. When those deep state dominoes begin to fall, the liberal world, the liberal fake news media, they will lose it again, and the dam is going to break, and the liberal tears are going to start pouring in and flooding. And then again, if you see somebody crying off the side of the road and banging their head on the steering wheel, chances are they're a liberal. So we are definitely watching the collapse of the old guard. Including, remember yesterday I was showing on the video about Federal Reserve how it just kind of went poof. It says it's permanently closed. Well, today I checked. I'm going to check every day because it could very well change. But Google Maps showed it disappeared and then reappeared. Okay, so it disappeared as the Federal Reserve, but it reappeared under a different name. Mariner S. Eccles Federal Reserve Board Building. I'm not going to get into that dive today. I will do it in another. You can look at the comments in this post right here. Oh, man, I'll tell you, you guys are on it. But it's the Mariner Eccles Federal Reserve Board Building. Now, usually it just says Federal Reserve. It doesn't say Federal Reserve Building. It just says Federal Reserve. So why? It's just a building. Is it vacant? Is it empty? And if you do a little bit of research on Eccles, I'd love to get your feedback because I really don't. And if you post it on social media, that would be great. I just find it very interesting because it sounds a little very President Trumpish. But at the same time, there was something kind of interesting about Eccles. Okay, let me go ahead and play this. At the fall of the corrupt politicians, okay, because I mean it's kind of interesting. Federal Reserve, they went poof over the weekend, permanently closed on Monday, reopens under a different name. Opens shows us it open, shows that the website is working, right? But something else is weird. But the road will be a little bumpy if everything falls at the same time, from the corrupt politicians, past presidents, monarchies, fake news, financial system, all boom, 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 boom. It's going to be a little bumpy for us, but it's not something that we haven't dealt with before. We all help each other along the way, yeah? White hats, 5 years ago today, on this very day, remember. Now, there are some of you, I would say there's a large percentage of you that have watched my podcast for 5 years at least, during the COVID years. The White Hats, they sent us a call. It was the Emo Set of Speed Gardens. Remember that? Well, this is kind of interesting because, let me show this, because is that what they're doing with the Federal Reserve? Let me play this for you if you've never seen this before. What happened is this. So back then, if you did a search for Guantanamo Bay, it showed the Emo Set of Speed Gardens. I really want to thank Dave Fagan 16 for posting this. Let me show you the clip. So he's doing his search. He's from a different country. So he's doing his search. I love how we have people from other nations helping us out. So he's doing a search here. He's showing it live. And he's showing, there it is, the Guantanamo Bay. Okay, so then there's the Emo Set of Speed Gardens. Now, for those of you... So he's going to show you. So if you take Emo Set of Speed Gardens, so let's just take Emo Set of Speed. We were laughing so hard back in 2020. And if you write it backwards, it's Deep State's new home. So we know the White House, they had a little bit of fun in terms of trying to give us hope back in 2020, yeah? Because it was really pretty depressing back then in 2020 with the COVID cops and all those other stuff. So that's what it is, the Deep State's new home. And when I saw this post, I don't know, what made me stumble across it. I was really going squirrel. I was kind of all out. Bleh. And then I ran across this and I started cracking up because it reminded me of back then. So the name Emo When Set a Speed appeared in connection with, this is from an AI search on Brave, okay? It appeared in a connection with a location tagged on Google Maps at the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center, and when read backwards, it spells Deep State's new home. The tag was part of an online discussion in August of 2020 where users noted its presence alongside another garden named Where We Go When We Go All phrase. So just run a search on X. So here it is, Where We Go One, or WWG1G, WGA Gardens. So they had the Emo When Set a Speed and the Where We Go One We Go All Gardens. And then continuing on, okay, so the listing includes photos and reviews referencing other conspiracy theories like Pizzagate, okay? It's a phrase associated to the QAnon conspiracy theory, which I'm going to get to in just a moment about Q. However, the Emo When Set a Speed Gardens location was quickly removed from Google Maps, with reports confirming its absence by August 19th of 2020. That was 5 years ago today. Users speculated about the meaning behind the tag, with some suggesting it was a cryptic message about the deep state, while others dismissed it as a hoax or a prank, possibly added by a user familiar with other online conspiracy culture. This was after President Trump already did his first world tour, and all those nations, including NATO and the EU, had capitulated to President Trump. Then after he did that world tour, then the arrests happened, then the deep state got taken care of, and then the White Hat, they're probably sitting there just cracking up and saying, oh man, we're just waiting for the tribunals. Let's have a little fun because we know Anons love to dig. And they probably did something like this. So are they sending a hint with the Federal Reserve one, yeah? So we know Grok. I think Grok has days where it's really good, and then sometimes I feel like it's a little bit, been drinking a little bit. I'm not using Grok for a while because I want to see it be fair to everybody. But somebody here, Weston Lebo, asked, so Q is real? Grok answer, giving the cumulative probabilities now, and then it goes into some with layered buckle up mirrors on the Q clock. Amid 2025 judicial events, Q defies dismissal as mere LARP. Evidence mounts, synchronized predictions manifesting. Yes, Q is real. Where we go when we go all. Synchronized predictions manifesting. Isn't that interesting? Because when you're all in sync, when we all are ready to hit the promised land, man, oh man, it's going to be the floodgates start to open, yeah? How many of you own a pet? And the pet is always like so excited to see you when you come home, always happy, smiling. Their faith is in what they don't worry. They just are like, okay, my dad's home, my mommy's home, I'm gonna go say hi. A dog, a cat, I'm gonna go jump on their lap, I'm gonna go sit on the computer keyboard so they don't have to work, so they can pay attention to me. Whatever, if it's a dog, cat, rabbit, many people have different kinds of pets. They're always smiling. They're always happy to see any owner, human, that absolutely loves them, right? So when they shine bright, they give you joy, you give them joy, you give them food, they give you joy, you give them many other things. They don't worry. So if you just keep shining bright and keeping your faith, keep smiling, because we know it's going to get a little bumpy with all these things coming, keep up the faith. And know that it's going to get that way before it gets really glorious again, because you're going to have all those forces fighting you off, and they're going to be like, oh no, that can't happen. But keep smiling and keep shining bright, please. What President Trump is doing and his team and the White Hats and the military is beyond extraordinary. And I just want to say thank you. If you're listening, White Hats, thank you for what you're doing. I mean, talk about being alive, thanking God to be alive during this moment when we're watching the changing of the guards. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you, God, for working through certain people to lead the way. And thank you, God in heaven, for choosing you, those that are listening to this podcast. to also fight with God and by President Trump's side to get us through to the finish line. Remember, we're at the 1 yard line, so what happens at the 1 yard line? The fight gets a little fierce, but we'll get to the goal. Just that we have to get there. So God bless you abundantly. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Have a beautiful afternoon, day. Thanks so much for the smiles that you brought me and all the joy you bring to me as well. God bless you abundantly, and I will have a show soon. Aloha.